Crystal, your very own personal beauty pro. I actually am a professional makeup artist. My primary work is in what's called advertising or commercial. I also do editorial, which is the kind of work you would see in magazines. I have served as an editor, I've served as a freelance writer, and the list goes on. One of the things I love to do in addition to doing what I love is share those professional level tips and tricks with you. I love sharing product knowledge, but more than just talking about the latest makeup and techniques, I want to encourage you, I want to encourage people to see the power in being well groomed, refining your look, how it can elevate the way you feel and view yourself, and it certainly has influence with the way you're perceived by others. Whether you're a fellow pro, an up-and-coming artist, or an everyday girl or woman, whatever your reason for watching, I want you to leave my videos feeling uplifted and pretty. Today I was getting ready using the new Gucci eyeshadow palette. I thought it'd be a perfect time to pop on camera and share my thoughts about the palette and also how I created this look with you. I'll be using several Gucci products, some of which I have already reviewed, so I will link those videos. We'll talk about the palette itself, what I think about the colors and the formula. For those of you who really want to have some fun, stick around and we'll do some makeup. Gucci has done just a gorgeous job with the aesthetic of their makeup releases. They have this beautiful nudish peach packaging with the black trim. Products themselves are enveloped in this pretty velvet touch pouch, and it does have Gucci emblazoned on the pouch. And then what caught most of our eyes, I'm sure, is the packaging. A note about packaging: the days of heavy metal and glass are gone, except for in the cases of custom types of items. So in respect for the environment as well as cost, most things will be plastic. So this is a lightweight plastic. They've done a lovely job with the design and the colors and so forth, but it is very much plastic. All of their packaging has had this pretty retro or vintage touch, and this is no exception. It has the beautiful floral design, and instead of it just being square or round, it's this nice decorative shape. This will just be a pretty vanity piece. And inside you have the 12 shades. Gucci says that it does intend to have other refills that you can insert into the pack. Now, as a pro and as a girly girl who loves makeup, of course I did not need another eyeshadow. But when Gucci has a new release, I am almost instantly on board because they've had so many hits and they've been doing things so beautifully thus far. I just had to see what they were going to do with eyeshadows. Now, admittedly, this color scheme is not the most eye-catching. However, the color story is a lot more flexible and a lot more useful than you might imagine. One thing to understand the story better is to look at this in quads. When you start looking at it in terms of quads, then some definite looks start emerging. You see an evening look with these blues, blacks, purples, and silver. You see two really nice day or evening looks, but of course you're not limited to using it that way. Now, in addition to the color selection people may have been wondering about, obviously we want to know what the deal is with these formulas. I did take the time to wear and apply every last shade in the palette. I've had it for a little while, and my philosophy is that I can try to be first in getting videos like this to you, or I can do it well and come to you really informed. So that's what I prefer to do, having tried something and really give you some information of value. So let's just start from the top row. The black is a deep, soft, matte black that applies to the eyes, blends really well, plays nicely with other colors, and does not get patchy when you are blending it out. Another surprise was that blacks can tend to have a bit of fallout. This one has minimal fallout. The next shade is a soft muted purple, and that has a little bit of satin sparkle. The next shade is the most subtle of the whole group. It is one of those soft iridescent peachy pinks. It's done quite a bit. This one is really soft and will just add a touch of sheen to the eye. It's not a bad formula, but it is not the kind that will look foiled or really intense on the eye. But it does look better with a bit of a base to grab it and intensify it. The next is a warm terracotta brown, perfect for just a one color look or to intensify the crease in the lash line. The white was a pleasant surprise because it's even and opaque, and even on my complexion it stays that way. The soft pink shade, it's okay. It stays true to color. It's not chalky, but it's also not very opaque. The blue is creamy and opaque, surprisingly good formula. The silver goes on effortlessly and it's just beautiful. The next shade is that soft cool brown, blends beautifully, creates a lovely contour and soft smokiness. The deep brown, same thing, even, smooth, opaque formula. One thing you want to start with that may not seem important, but that can really change your makeup game, especially if you like a really seamless, supernatural look, is a good mirror. A good magnifying, lighted mirror makes all the difference. This is a Simply Human mirror, but there are a variety of quality mirrors. The skin is already cleansed and moisturized. I've also started with an additional primer. This is the Dermablend Instagrip Jelly Primer. This has a beautiful jelly-like texture. It's good to warm this up in the hands a bit because it is intentionally a bit thick and tacky. And it is really nice to plump up, give the skin a nice plump, tight appearance. And it makes it look nice and moist and healthy, but it also creates that gripping layer on the skin to really grab and hold your makeup. And then to really have some fun and just have that really lush skin as a base for the foundation, we're going to use Gucci's Serum Beauté, and it gives a nice, smooth, silkening effect. We have two shades of the Gucci foundation. That's 330 on the top. And that is slightly warmer, more golden. 5W is slightly deeper, but it also has more of an olive undertone, which is not my favorite on my undertone. But around the perimeter of the face, I don't mind the 350 with the 330 in the center. We're going to use a recent arrival, which is from the Sonia G Lotus set. This is the base brush. A fan shape covers a lot of area, but then it's still slim enough to get into the tighter areas. It's always nice to go over your foundation with one final push from a sponge. Depending on the texture you want, it can be a dry or slightly damp sponge. Then I added Pat McGrath's concealer. This one is M15. We're going to move on to the eye look, and we are going to start with that pretty baby blue. Before we do that, I'm going to go on the lid with Laura Mercier's Caviar Stick in Vanilla Kiss. Vanilla Kiss is a beautiful, warm, matte vanilla. Unless you have a really fair skin tone, it is nice to kind of give a light wash of color on the lid so that the color will go on truer, because even though it's a good formula, I am a golden brown skin tone, so your eyeshadows will to a degree pick up the skin tone beneath them. But when you start off with a lighter, closer to a whiter base, you can get a truer color. I'm going to pat it on with the lid. I used just a tiny bit, and it goes on so soft, even. It goes on in a thin layer. It doesn't cake or crease. Fingers are a great tool, but they cannot do it all, especially when it comes to reaching into those tiny little corners. So for that, to make sure the cream eyeshadow was placed really well, I reached for the Builder brush in the Sonia G set. And I am going to use a pressing and patting motion to get the full payoff to really help the color grab onto the eyelid. We're going to keep building dimension so that it's an elegant, polished look, even though it's a fun kind of mod 60s like blue eyeshadow. We still want it to look pretty and polished. I've taken a bit of this soft brown shade, and I'm doing that with this small, soft definer brush by Sonia G, and I think this is going to quickly rise to my favorites because that small, tapered brush is gorgeous. A brush this small is going to allow you to be really strategic and do some beautiful crease and detail work. I'm going to put a soft wash of this on the lower lash line. Quick tip for you, make sure you really tap off any excess off of the brush, especially when you're working close to the lash line, because a soft puff of color will often float into the eye, and that's when you start to get the subtle watering. And I want to create a little depth, and I want to create a bit more of a crease effect above the blue, and that will also kind of melt the edges of the blue more into the eye as well. We'll start right at the top edge, and hold your brush slightly angled upward like you're coming down from above, and so you rest that brush in there, and so the tip of the brush will create the definition, but the body of the brush will softly blend it upwards. Now we're starting to build and intensify the look. Here's another good tip that will be valuable regardless of the types of looks that you are doing. When I applied the blue, I did not really worry about packing it onto the outer edges of each eye. Reason being that I knew I was going to come in with the black. So I didn't want the blue to lighten or affect the black in any way. And that's true with any color. Unless you want the colors to really lay on top of each other and create a different color, then keep in mind your placement. I'm gonna go back in with that cool, soft brown, and I'm going to softly deepen up the outer corner of this eye. Once I have the brown down, then I have something for the black to graduate into. I am so happy with these formulas and the way that they blend. There's no coaxing or coercing these shades to merge into one another. They just softly, naturally blend as you tap them in. To finish off the look, we're going to add a pretty lift to the brow bone. I'm going to do that using that soft matte white, buffing it really well right under the arches where we want. And another nice, almost undetectable trick that I'm going to do, it's a small thing, but it adds a nice touch of dimension. I'm going to pat a little bit of that white right on the center or the ball of the eye. So I added some black eyeliner. This Patrick Ta is currently coming for all of my favorites. It is so yummy. It glides on, I would say like a gel. It's this gel pencil, but it's better than a gel. It is practically a liquid in pencil form. And then I popped on a House of Lashes lash that I have been loving. So I'll be sure to include that in the description box. And in keeping with the Gucci theme, I'm going to add Christina Lipstick. This is one of Gucci's matte formulas, and it is a really pretty popping retro coral. To set the under eye, I am using good old-fashioned Ben Nye banana powder. But for all over face powder, I want to keep the warmth and the golden tones in the rest of my face without the rest of the complexion being too light. And so I am going to use my Gucci pressed powder. Then we're going to use the gorgeous Gucci bronzer in the shade 03. Smooth, buttery formula that sits on the skin like a second skin. And here we are with the finished look. Rather sickening, don't you agree? I absolutely love the way this Gucci glam makeup look turned out. Definitely a little something for nighttime out with the hubby, a little girls' night out, a little dinner, an evening family gathering. I am genuinely enjoying this Gucci eyeshadow palette. The quality actually exceeded my expectations, and the palette itself is a lot more user-friendly than you might imagine as far as the color selection. Please feel free to let me know if you have any additional questions about any of the products I use. I'll be sure to link them in the description box below. As always, I am excited about seeing you in our very next video. But until we meet again, keep it pretty.